Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to gear up your Paladin and Shamans very quickly in a pre-patch in preparation for the launch of TBC. So obviously Blizzard haven't really given us enough time to level up to level 60, never mind getting some actual gear, so the method I'm going to be teaching you today is extremely efficient. Because I'm not going to lie, it's probably best to just buy some pieces. But anyway, let me tell you what the video is going to cover. First of all, I'm going to talk about some extremely key, powerful pieces that I recommend for you to pick up. You can actually pick them up while leveling. Then how to farm gear efficiently while you're leveling, because let's be honest, most people in the last week or the last few days of pre-patch are probably going to be floating between level 50 and 60. And then some gear that you can get from PvP, you know, for the people who have managed to level up extremely quickly because they've been boosted or stuff like that. And then I'll cover some last good pieces at the end of the video. What I would recommend though guys is to start thinking about gold making while you're leveling right now, because the more gold you can make while leveling, the more gold you'll have to spend on some cheap, really good, powerful pieces for when you are at level 60. Now the first key piece I want to talk about is trinket pieces, because obviously trinkets are actually quite rare to just find while questing because there are not many of them in the game. But luckily there is this trinket called the Strength of the High Chief. This is definitely best in slot for both a Paladin and a Shaman. You can get this very simply from the Words of the High Chief quest in Winterspring. You can pair this also with the Rune of a Guard Captain, which has 20 attack power and 1% hit rating, and this is from a very simple quest in the Hinterlands. Unfortunately only the Horde can get this one though. Next we have a Paladin specific trinket with 15 stamina, and then if you use this item it will imbue your weapon with power, increasing attack power against undead and demons by 150, and it lasts 5 full minutes and it will have a 30-minute cooldown, so you will probably want to swap this in and out with the previous trinket. This is a quest reward that's actually added in the pre-patch for Horde Paladins, and it's called Ancient Evil, and you will pick it up basically where the Paladin trainers are in Silvermoon City. Now for the Shamans, and to be honest, this gear is actually quite good for a Paladin if you're solo leveling as a Rep Paladin. You probably want to start thinking about getting a Beastalker set. It's normally quite cheap, well some pieces are normally quite cheap on the auction house, some are a little bit more expensive, but again you can very quickly buy this on the auction house and it's very powerful gear, and you can farm the other pieces in Lower Blackrock, Spire and various other dungeons. I'll talk more about dungeons a little bit later. Paladins may want to invest in quickly getting some Lightforge gear. Only the belt is on at the auction house on my server at the moment, but normally you can get a few Lightforge pieces on the auction house very cheap, and again this gear is fairly decent. It's going to be better than the basic green gear that you're getting from questing anyway. If you are a little bit more rich, you can also go for Dark Soul gear, which is very good for Paladins because of the insanely high hit rating on each of the gear pieces and the stamina and armor, which is going to be very useful if you're going to, level up by tanking dungeons. You can also go for the Black Dragon Scale armor. Again, this is a little bit pricey too, but it's not insanely expensive, and by the time you're at level 60 you can probably afford a few of these pieces. It's definitely going to be worth getting because the attack power is pretty insane. I mean, you guys might be wondering, well, why would I want to spend all this money if I'm going to replace it very quickly with quest gear? Well, let's be honest, doing questing in the first few days of TBC is a very unpractical option. Most people are going to be doing dungeons, which means you're going to basically be relying on dungeon drops. So until you get those dungeon drops, you want to be at least powerful enough to complete those dungeons efficiently. I think another really good option for enhancement Shamans, and maybe a prop Paladin to be honest, would be the Axe of Deep Woods. As you can see, they're going fairly cheap on my server at the moment, and they can be dual wielded, and they have a chance to blast the enemy with nature damage, and obviously with Storm Strike you can actually increase the damage of that effect because it obviously provides that cheeky little debuff. And then obviously you've got stuff like Wind Fury and Flame Tongue if you're going to go for that. I think you're probably more likely to go with Wind Fury when you're using a slow one-handed weapon like this, which obviously just complements the proc effect of the weapon even more. Another option could be the Alcor Sunraiser, but again that one is quite expensive and you probably want to be using that with Flame Tongue weapon because that will be pretty powerful. A good option for a solo Rep Paladin could be to go for the Needler because it's very cheap and yeah, it's pretty powerful, pretty high weapon damage and everything like that. And obviously apart from this you can obviously pick up some really cheap green pieces, and obviously mainly you want to prioritize your best in slot stats or get gear that basically just has your individual stat. Like for instance this plate gear with plus 22 strength. Just be careful with this though, because if you stack too much gear that just has strength on it, then you won't have much stamina, which means you'll probably die very quickly. And if you have the time to do some BRD runs, you may as well do them because you get loads of great quests for BRD. Try and pick up a Totem of Rage, increases the damage of your Earth Shock, Flame Shock and Frost Shock by 30, and you'll probably keep that all the way up until level 70, to be honest, unless you do a quest for an upgrade. Now, my other advice, if, you know, first of all, if you don't want to spend any gold, but I think everyone should do this anyway, is you should start thinking about how you're going to farm gear while actually leveling up, right? My advice is when you get to level 50, well, start doing some Blackrock Depths. Like, there's so many different bosses in Blackrock Depths that have really good gear, particularly as some of the gear has totally changed, right? I'll give you an example. The Searing Scale leggings had fire resistance on it, which is pretty useless, let's be honest, right now, because we're not doing, you know, Molten Core or, you know, Blackwing Lair or anything like that. So this gear, the stat has essentially been swapped with attack power and a little bit of MP5, which is great for Shamans. And to be honest, this gear is even good for Paladins because, you know, the higher chance to get a crit, the more you're going to get Vengeance stacks and everything like that. So what I'd recommend for you to do is, yeah, as soon as you hit level 50, start grinding the upper section of BRD. You won't be able to do it, you know, do a full run at level 50, let's be honest, because of the hit chance and everything like that. But start farming some of the easy bosses in BRD and keep farming them until you get higher level, and then you can start doing the bigger bosses and higher level bosses. And then once you hit level 55, you can switch into Lower Blackrock Spire. There's some great gear in Lower Blackrock Spire. I'll give you an example. Back Saurian Gauntlets, the MP5 got swapped with hit rating, so that's really good for a Paladin. And I'll be honest, like, if you go through the loot tables for Lower Blackrock Spire, there's just so much really good gear. So again, you may as well have a crack at it and do a few runs of LBRS while you're leveling up as well. And another thing to bear in mind is there's loads of great quests that you can pick up for LBRS 2, which obviously gets you a lot of XP. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, Beastalkers drops from Lower Blackrock Spire, which is great for Shamans and great for Paladins. Once you hit level 58, you can do Scholomance, Stratholm and Dire Maul. Now, I'm going to link the Wowhead quest guides for every single dungeon I've mentioned in the description below, so you can check the quest rewards for yourself. But for Skull and Strat, there's so many good quest rewards which provide really good gear. A good example would be Ras Frost Whisper. There's quite a long quest chain, but if you're just grinding out the dungeon over and over again, you may as well just keep doing the quest as well. You know, the little parts, because this quest chain will take you to Strat and Scholo and you keep bouncing between them, but you get really good blue gear reward at the end, which will probably last you a few levels into TBC. You've got the Warblade of Kar Darrow, which is a big two-handed weapon with frost damage, which is obviously insane for Paladin. And then you've got Darrow Spike, which is a fast dagger with a frost damage proc, and obviously that's going to be really insane when you have Flame Tongue weapon on the weapon too. Another example would be the Will of the Martyr, which is a strong attack power necklace, very quickly picked up from a quest. And then you've got the Argent Defender for proc Paladins, it has a proc chance to increase your block value, which is really good. And then you've got the Blackwood Defender from Dire Maul, which is a great shaman headpiece. And overall, there's just great gear that can drop from these dungeons, which will last you a few levels into TBC content, and just make those few first quests or those few first dungeon pulls much easier than the basic green gear that you've got from questing. Now, if you're one of the people who have leveled up extremely fast because you've got boosted or something like that, there are some gear pieces that you can pick up from PvP if you have the time. Now, what I'd recommend for you to do is go for the cheaper pieces. Okay, so obviously the rank 14 gear is actually quite expensive. They have fixed the honor nerf to double the honor gains, and obviously on the weekend it's going to be doubled even more. Take advantage of that both weekends. This weekend is Arathi Basin, next weekend it's Outer Valley, so that's times 4 honor gains for the weekends. And if you go for the battleground specific faction gear, it's much cheaper. In fact, it's 3 times cheaper. Okay, you get epic leg gear for 5k honor and 40 marks. Okay, the marks is quite expensive, but by the time you've got that 5k honor, you probably have 40 marks anyway. Then you've got wrist gear that's even cheaper, and it's only 20 marks. You've got a cheap dagger for a shaman, and you've got cheap neck and ring pieces. That's all from Warsong Gulch. And then for Outer Valley, you could go for the Unstoppable Force, which is 5k honor, just 5k honor for an epic weapon. That is pretty good. And then 25 marks. And then you've also got some epic rings for 5k honor and 25 marks. And then you've also got a Arathi Basin, which provides some epic shoulders, which are very good for Paladins and Shamans. Again, that's just 5k honor and 40 marks. And there's also a cheap cloak that you can pick up too. And what's interesting about these gear pieces is that they are actually way cheaper than they originally were in TBC, so take advantage of getting these gear pieces before they hotfix it, because that might come in a few days if they realise it. And obviously if Blizzard, you know, for some reason watch this video. Now, if you want more information about what gear pieces you can get, the video I uploaded very recently, the second to last video, which was all about how to get gear for boosted characters, you know, that will also recommend some great gear pieces. I don't want to repeat myself, so what I'd recommend if you do is go and check that video out straight after this one, because there's loads of other gear pieces that you can get which are highlighted in that video also. But anyway, my name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.